nuclear weapons.
Yes. Iranian security forces, meanwhile, also now are claiming to have arrested what a state television report describes as a terrorist groups linked to Israel in the southeastern city of Zahedan. The report, without providing additional details, says the group entered through Iran's eastern borders and carried US-made guns and explosives that the group had planned to use in assassination and acts of sabotage since the 12-day war between Iran and Israel in June. Tehran has stepped up executions of people it accused of working for or collaborating with the Mossad. So now, of course, this is a big arrest that Iran is claiming of these individuals they are calling terrorists. What do you make of these claims by the security forces, Major General Dwivedi, coming in through state reports?
Well, to some extent, there was external interference or external support, because that's support which has come through the clandestine means, support through the proxies. Definitely, these protesters have had certain degree of support from the neighboring countries, especially from Israel and maybe also from the CIA agents as well. But the point is, which is I think critical, is that this regime has won this battle at a tremendous cost, and it definitely stands weakened, because the kind of protest that came off, that means the fear of the regime, because after all the regime has been in place and the endurance have basically primarily because of his very hard and high-headed attitude. So to that extent, this regime definitely is weakened. The casualties have been very high, but the most important facet is, well, they will try to go in for certain external elements which definitely added fuel to the fire. But the point at issue is that economically, Iran is not going to get on track anytime soon, because with the sanctions, further sanctions coming, and economy today is the critical element, because the merchant community of Iran has also parted ways with the current regime. The student who were instrumental in the throwing of Shah in 1979 are against the regime. So this regime primarily is drawing power from these security forces, that is the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, and some very small element who may be loyal to the regime, but largely the regime has lost I think confidence among the larger public, because these protests spread to a lot of small towns.
Yes.
And at one point of time, there are lakhs and lakhs of people who are on the streets. So my point is that yes, external element would have been involved, but the point is largely it was homegrown. The protests were largely from the young people and the younger population.
Right. Well, now our government sources are reacting to Donald Trump's 25% tariff threats for Iran's trading partners as well. As per sources, 25% tariff announced by the US on trade partners of Iran is likely to have minimal impact on India. For India, Iran does not even figure in the top 50 global trading partners. Last year, India's total trade with Iran was $1.6 billion, which is approximately 0.15% of India's total trade. India's trade value with Iran is expected to further go down in the CFY, given external economic factors. Iran's total imports were about $68 billion in 2024, of which its leading import partners were the UAE, China, Turkey, and the EU. India's share is just 2.3%. Ambassador Bashwati Mukherjee, our sources, of course, evaluating this threat by Trump of additional tariffs of 25% on Iran's trading partners, and what the potential impact could be on India.
I think in this case, the impact would be minimal, because we had already sharply cut back, for example, on purchasing Iran's oil or all its sanctioned assets, because our business and corporate sector, which have very close links with the United States from the point of view of business, investment, etc., regardless of whatever Trump says or does, those business links have actually been strengthened over the past 3 years, not been weakened at all. And we have moved back sharply from trading with Iran. So if it means that we should cut back further, we will do that. We will not risk more tariffs. But in any case, Uday, from a logical point of view, if you are threatening India with 500% tariffs, then 525% tariffs, what difference does it make? Basically, you are trying to destroy a trading relationship with a very important country, which is your strategic partner, by threatening and bullying. Uh, but in this particular case, as far as Iran is concerned, the impact will be minimal because we have already taken those measures a couple of years ago, actually, because these came from the first Trump administration, and we had already started cutting back, and we cut back further during the Biden administration. So um, the Biden administration, by the way, on sanctions on Iran, had a fairly similar approach to Trump 1.0 and now Trump 2.0. So, in order to ensure that our business and FDI and other very important deals which are on and which will be further strengthened are not impacted. We had already cut back sharply, so I don't think. But I wonder that if it sharply impacts Turkey, for instance, what are the Turks going to do? If it sharply impacts China, for instance, will China then go back to threatening US with regard to rare earths, etc.? We have to see this because the Chinese have plenty of assets on their side, which they do not hesitate to use if they think the Americans are trying to bully them. So it would be very interesting to see how China will react, and also Turkey.
All right.
So that
Let me get you in here, Major Dwivedi, on what this potential threat has on India. Do you believe there's likely to be minimal impact, as government sources are now indicating, on India, given the minimal nature of Iran's trade with India, which is also likely to go down further due to current economic situation?
Absolutely, Uday, because the figures speak for themselves. The total trade between India and Iran is just about $1.7 billion, and India exported about $1.24 billion. So that was a very, very minuscule figure as far as the total trade of India is concerned. And definitely, I don't think it's going to have a very major impact. But there's one geopolitical issue, I think, which merits consideration. India has invested a lot of I think even the resources and also geopolitically in Chabar, port, and that is one which is going to take the hit because that port is very important for India to actually. One is to neutralize the Gwadar port, and secondly, it gives us the access to the Central Asian republics and beyond. So that is one, I think, area where India will have to now take a recalibration as to how far it can go for this port at Chabar. But the second point issue is that as the trade itself, the figures speak, is very minuscule. So that way, I don't think is going to have a very major impact on India. But I think at this particular issue of tariff, I think President Trump is aiming more at China. Even in Venezuela case, it was the Chinese who are importing almost 4% of the oil from Venezuela, and almost 60% of Venezuelan oil was going to China. So therefore, I think China is one of the targets for this 25% accretion in tariffs, not India per se, but nonetheless, I think we need to have a relook at our interest in Chabar Airport, Chabar Port, and also how we are going to further navigate our geopolitical
Yes.
interests in this region.
Okay. Now we're getting more news coming in. In fact, interestingly, global support for one part of the protesters is coming in now. Israelis and Iranians have stood together for freedom in Miami. They're showing that they are united against the Islamic regime. The support is clearly going global. The visuals on your screen, in fact, show that as well. Quite interesting, sight here. Israeli and Iranian flags being seen side by side in Miami, Ambassador Mukherjee.
But these are people from Iran who fled to United States after the Iranian Revolution and settled down in US. And please don't forget, Uday, that the United States of America refused to give refuge to the Shah of Iran at that particular point of time when he was battling cancer and looking for exile. The United States refused him exile. Um, these people are completely cut off from Iran, and the very fact that they are demonstrating against the Iranian regime with Israel is not going to strengthen their position with as far as the local Iranians are concerned, because as as I have seen in my career, Iranians, like Indians, are particularly sensitive to what they feel is interference in their internal affairs or external intervention. The worst thing that Trump can do for Western interests is to interfere overtly or to try to bring back the son of the former Shah of Iran, because it would mean that the protesters would unite against external intervention and the regime would be saved. He would be saving the regime. He should just lay off and allow this protest movement, which is moving inexorably towards revolution, to come to a climax by which the Iranians will be forced to have free and fair elections and elect the government of their choice. That is the only way to sort out this issue, because otherwise, if
Yes.
they feel there is external intervention,
Okay.
they unite with the present regime against external intervention.
Okay.